I'm seriously just going to come in hot today, y'all. They say the Bible, I don't say they say, the Bible says money answereth all things. So if you don't know how to get money right, if you don't know how to use money right, if you don't know how to invest money right, if you don't know how to save money right, then you need to lean in right here to today's episode. We have a financial expert with us who operates as a fractional CFO and so many other things. Y'all know who I am. I am attorney Jamila Moore, the legal expert, business strategist, and your source to make sure your business, your brand, and your profits are protected through copyrights, contracts, and trademarks. Typically, y'all, I try and, deliver the bio. I try, but today I'm not even gonna try. We just got to introduce Lanisha Mohip, and Lanisha Mohip has to introduce herself. Lanisha, tell the people about you.
Hey, good people. I am Lanisha Mohib. As Jamila mentioned, I am fractional CFO for solopreneurs and small business owners, but I also serve corporations in the area of accounting consulting. So if you have a small financial mess, or even if you have a large financial mess, I usually have a solution for both spectrums of the situation. And so my goal is to bridge the gap between what you feel like you should know about the financial aspects of your business and also share with you what corporate does basically within your budget.
So she makes sure that you don't go out there and spend all your money in the wrong, because it's a real thing. And I was literally talking with a business owner yesterday, and one of the reasons why I am in this space is because it saddens me when people don't start their businesses right,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
when their businesses aren't protected. And so most people don't understand things like profit margin, cash flow, bookkeeping, and QuickBooks to sell you on just come and get QuickBooks, but you have to
yeah,
categorize it right. And so this is really important. And someone's going to say, well, I don't have a business, so I don't know if I should be listening in here.
yeah,
These skills are transferable that we are about to talk about. Because if you don't know how to balance that budget in your own personal life, you sure won't be able to do it to be wealthy. And that's why we're here on the journey to more, to really get everything that we're supposed to have. So, Lanisha, tell us a little bit about how you even got started in entrepreneurship, because that story alone is a great one.
yeah. I actually was the person who I just wanted to go to my job. I wanted to buy my luxury car. I wanted to make a lot of money and go home. I wanted to just spend my money traveling, enjoying experiences, and mind my business, like literally. But I came to realize how much of a non-traditional person I was in the corporate setting. So I'm pretty sure it's like this in the legal field, but in the finance and accounting industry, it's actually majority Caucasian women. It's very, very, very few people of color and very few Black people. So you're generally walking into spaces where you're either the only one or you're one of less than five. And that's among teams of 50 plus people. And so I didn't really too much understand how politics and playing the game, air quotes, and socializing at work became so much part of the job when y'all don't pay me for that. Y'all pay me to exchange my time for work. And I just became so exhausted with repelling playing the game and not giving people an explanation for why I don't want to go to lunch with you. Like I just can't became very sick of that. And so in my last 9 to 5, I was working for a global bank on their financial reporting team in the very rich suburbs of Chicago. And it was cool. I actually didn't mind it, but it was up until that point where I got my first review. And the manager, I remember her telling me, like, you're doing well, like you're catching on to things, but I need you to play the game a little bit more. And I was like, what are you talking about? Play the game. And she's like, yeah, you got to talk to leaders and you got to talk to managers. And in my head, I didn't say it because at the time I was never that comfortable being vocal. But in my head, I'm like, what's that got to do with the work? Like, I don't have an interest in moving up or being promoted. I just want to get paid, right? I want to go home. I actually like my life at home. And when she said that, I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And so I was probably like a year in, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I don't like this. But the universe started sending me like other events, resources. So my husband came home and he's like, hey, I don't know what I just signed up for, but it's this financial services thing. And I think you'll like it. And it was our introduction into the investment space, the learning of personal finances. And sure enough, I think when he came home, I had my resignation letter on the fridge because I had a goal date of quitting, I think by like June, and I ended up quitting in May because I was so confident that I could just start a business. I could just do this because everybody needs personal finances, but I had no business acumen. I had no entrepreneurship experience. I just knew that it was a solution for what middle income America needed. And I found it valuable. So how could I not be successful? Well, lo and behold, that was the stupidest thing I could have done, was to quit that early because I didn't realize the learning curve I had to build up. So fast forward, I ended up going back to corporate. I went to a tech company and I was doing really good up until I had this interaction with the controller. And I couldn't stand the way she really just brought me and my coworker in to be set up to fail. She brought us on board 2 weeks before her vacation. She did no training, no onboarding. She would literally send an email like, hey, go look on the drives and do this. Now, if you're a visual learner, no, I need you to walk me through. Let me pick up your shoulder. Let me get comfortable. And so I remember going to my coworker's cubicle and I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna get fired because she's pissing me off. And yeah, I think towards the end of the week, I didn't last. I don't think I lasted. I think I accepted the offer in July and I got fired like the Tuesday after Labor Day, so September. And yeah, we had an interaction at her cubicle. She wanted me to do something and I couldn't stop my mouth before my brain. So I was speaking too soon. I didn't code switch fast enough. And she was like, yeah, all you need to do is do this. And I'm like, that's not how you train somebody. And I was like, oh, bet. And then I walked away. Because at that point I was like on fire on the inside. So I went outside. It was like lunchtime, went outside with the smokers to calm myself down. And I'm like, I just know I ain't gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it to the end of the year. So in the back of my head, I knew it was coming, but to actually get fired, like in real life, is totally different from what us overthinkers think it will be. You think you're gonna be so cool, calm, collected. Right. You know, you're gonna walk out of there with your shoulders held high and your chin. No, they caught me off guard. I wasn't in my chair no more than 45 minutes before HR came knocking on the cubicle, like, hey, can you step into the conference room? And then they slid that black folder with the COBRA benefits in it, and you know the termination letter. Like, yeah, it's not gonna work out. And I'm sitting there fuming, and I'm like, this lady has literally shown you that she can't keep people in these roles, but you don't even care to ask us what our experience is. So I'm like, cool, whatever. And the HR director is like, do you have any questions? I was like, nope. So because I couldn't even process it fast enough to actually think logically. I'm an overthinker, so I need to think about it, process the scenarios before I can verbally say it. And I remember being escorted out of the conference room. And then there was like a banker's box on the receptionist desk. And the security guard was standing there waiting to escort me to the elevator. And so, yeah, that's how I got started.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
it was out of a need, really. I
Mhm.
got let go. And I realized like the game, played in corporate. And honestly, I could not get another 9 to 5 since that point. I've done contract and consulting since then. So it was out of a need.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's an interesting story in a sense of like one, it just goes to show from my perspective. So my my professional career started off in education. So I
Mhm.
was a teacher, then I was an assistant principal, and I went to law school in the evening time while I was an assistant principal. And so when I finally left education and went into corporate America, the thing that just threw me over the loop was like, these people have gotten positions, but they're not leaders.
No,
They are managers, but they do not know how to train. And
no.
so
Mhm.
I was like, I'm 3 jobs in now, and I'm like, no one knows how to lead. And
Yeah.
so that's why I say it's interesting that I'm seeing it from a totally different field of everywhere I go, there's this leadership deficit that no one is talking about. And they like to talk about the turnover rate. They like to talk about employee culture. But let's talk about the people that you are actually promoting without training. And
Yep.
so it's something that I hope to be able to add value in the field, having 10 plus years in leadership, to really make sure leaders are leading and not telling people what to do without a vision or a standard operating procedure for what is supposed to happen.
Yep.
But all things work together for the good, because you took that experience and now you're out here as a very successful business owner. One of the things that you said before was when you first stepped out, it was like, ooh, I shouldn't be out here because I didn't
Mhm.
have it together. So,
Mhm.
how did you get it together once it was just the need? Now you got to survive. So,
Yeah, that survival turned into a lot of financial depletions of my retirement account, our savings account, all of our investment accounts, because again, I'm a Black woman in accounting, which is rare. So the fact that I'm a woman, it's already competitive, right? Because I'm in a space with generally Caucasian women. Secondarily, I'm a Black woman. And as much as we like to tiptoe around it, the reality is that if you're Black, you're going to compete a whole lot more than any other group of people. And I just was not getting the conversions. Like I would have these wonderful interviews, wonderful conversations, and they would hype me up and make me feel like I was that next hire, or that next team member, all to get 88, 100, 200 rejections, right? And I'm just like, it's not adding up. Like it's not making sense. And so this huge chip just grew on my shoulder, and I had to turn that chip on my shoulder into some type of action. And so thank God I did have the option to sell small business owners, bookkeeping, accounting. I even dabbled a little bit into taxes, and I learned that is not my lane. It's just best to work with tax experts. Um, and I had started on this trajectory to getting my like series investment licenses, and that taught me so much. But then that industry is full of Caucasian wealthy white men, right? And if you know anything about sales, which is what financial services truly is, you're just selling financial products. If you don't have a large enough network of people and professionals who actually have the financial mindset and acumen to see the value, you're going to work harder for crumbs. And that's the reality. Like, your network has to be full of people that understands why financial literacy and implementation is important. And we all know in our community, we are still coming out of a lot of mindset issues. We're still not even comfortable having conversations around, investments. Like, we're still at the basic level of understanding. We don't even want to have conversations about estate planning and a will. So, it's just a different market, in my opinion. And so I luckily had that as a side option, but it just wasn't enough to sustain our lifestyle. And so it literally clicked. I was offering somebody I met on social media, because that's how I started. I started to be frustrated with the market, the job market. And I'm like, I have all these skills. I did everything right. Like, I have a good heart for people. Why am I not making the conversion? So I just started getting on social media and sharing it. And I tell you, my posts were as dry as the Las Vegas, desert.
Yes.
People were not engaging, right? Because I'm talking about stuff that generally my network ain't used to. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna say it in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna say it anyway. I don't care. I'm sick of this. Blah, blah, blah. And so what I came to realize is that even though my engagement was either low or non-existent, people were still paying attention. And so I would close a lot of business in the DMs or get them to a call. And I was like, in the back of my head, which I never really shared, I'm like, why are y'all so quiet about what I'm doing silently? You know what I mean? But I kind of get it. Like, it's still taboo. And so I just started sharing, what I'm seeing, like, just help the client minimize her debt from this to this. Just help the client put, a couple million into life insurance. We're going to help her child set up a 529. I just started doing more of that. And then something clicked, like, girl, you got a whole accounting degree. Why aren't you asking business owners about their business finances? And I just started asking, because there's always an assumption of no for me, because I think I felt so much rejection. And people was like, yeah, sure, I would love to work with you. And I was just getting anyone with a pulse, anyone with a breath, and Lord knows they were not the right people. But I was just getting anybody because I still felt like I needed to prove something. Even though I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, I still felt like I had to prove something. And so I just started asking people, hey, this is what I'm thinking would be best for you. Would you be open to us working together? And I just took away the assumption that they would say no. And I assumed that they would say yes. And if they said no, I was like, cool, girl. I check on you in 90 days. I just became very nonchalant about the sale, but more so about the relationship.
No, that's so good. And one of the things that I'm super passionate about is making sure entrepreneurs avoid that long startup process.
Yeah.
And so, like, the attorney side of me, I get your contracts, your trademarks, your copyrights together. But the business strategist side of me, like, gets you to start with the right foundation and to see your skills, your talents, and your knowledge, and how that correlates to a market need early on and launch you out the right way. And so I'm plugging that because folks that are interested in entrepreneurship or in that struggle space of entrepreneurship need to be heading to IamandMore.com right now to just set up a discovery call, because you don't want to go out there. Lanisha and I have similar stories. You make those mistakes along the way. Even with all of the knowledge that you do know, I had to abandon everything that the gurus were telling me and go with the plan that I knew. Like, know this stuff and you have to teach it to yourself. And like you, one of the things that kind of like got me there was the need.
Yep.
And so I necessarily didn't want to do this in a sense. I was like, ooh, these leaders out here, they I need people to really, go in there and get themselves together. But when you start a business, you start a market solution.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You start a market solution. And so when I started focusing on the market solution, it was just like, oh, okay, this is where we are. And now there's still this dance where you have to kind of balance what everyone else is telling you. And if you are a believer, what God is telling you, because he
Yep.
will give you a different marketing strategy that will catapult your business into something you could not even imagine.
Completely. And I feel like if he gives you that initial faith to turn whatever that vivid vision that you see, if he gives you the faith to go out and do one thing, that's enough to me to carry you to the next level or the next learning curve. And oftentimes we really minimize those little visions into the future. Like, we see things bigger than obviously nobody else can see. So we're doing work for something that isn't even tangible yet. And I feel like that has to be an example for people who are scared to even just say, I do this. I am an expert at this. Here's my website. Here's what I'm great at. And I feel like you're strengthening a muscle, that faith muscle, while you're getting better. So yes, you're going to mess up. You're going to stumble, bumble, right? What I do, I just make fun of myself. I'm like, girl, what am I even talking about? This is what I meant, right? You have to be human about it. And I think when you become human and less robotic, you attract more people, because it's conditioning. When we're in corporate, if we go back to kindergarten, in my belief, we're conditioned to act and respond in a certain way. And you're constantly reconditioning yourself to a new way.
Lanisha, you gonna make the school administrator come out right now. When you get to talking about education, that brings a whole different side out about me, because we don't do enough of exploratory learning for kids to
No.
allow them to really grow and foster their talents, their knowledge, and their skills, because America has trained us that if you do this, if you do this, if you do this, then you get this. And
Yep.
that this is not really financial freedom. It's you being able to sit in a box comfortably.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Or
So,
even uncomfortably.
mhm.
A lot of us are sitting in leased boxes, myself included. We're leasing a box from a bank for the rest of our lives. And we're told, you can't move that box. You can't do this. You can't do that. But all of that, it's literally the worst abusive relationship ever created. You're told to do A, B, and C. You're promised D, and then it turns out, well, that's not the promise. I didn't even get the promise. The promise actually led to me being a slave in this system financially, right? And you're 10 years behind, because you're like, oh, shoot, like you're finally awake. And you're like, this ain't the dream. This is the scam. And so now you got to figure out how to get out of the scam, right? And still chipping away at that chip on your shoulder, because you were told to do A, B, and C. You did that, right? But the promises were never delivered upon. And so we have to decide to get out of that abusive relationship, right? Whatever that means. If it's, removal of our time from this system, or, making sure that we increase where we put our money, or making sure, whatever that is, we have to choose to deprogram, in my opinion. And sometimes I believe we've been so embedded in like a cycle or a rat race that it could be exhausting to think about coming out of it. So I like have understanding if you choose to do it, and if you don't, like, I completely get it, because you can be completely wiped out.
No, that you are preaching to probably a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
They say preaching to the choir, but it is so true. And I remember like just being uncomfortable in my
Yeah.
boxes.
Yep.
And thinking about like you done spent all this money on this degree.
Yeah. A
You
piece of paper
done
that I can't even take to the bank.
whew, you got the debt to account for it. You
Yeah.
got the quote unquote title to account for it, but you don't have the fulfillment to
The
account
fulfillment.
for it.
Hmm.
And so it's one of those things where people don't understand really like when you go into some type of entrepreneurial space, and I believe everybody should, whether you just selling t-shirts is going to bring you an extra $500 a month, and that $500 is what you invest here, so that when you do get out the rat race or the scam for retirement, you're not
Hmm.
stressed and going to Walmart.
Yep. Yep. I've come to learn, I think, because of bad leadership, but also bad employees, because we've been in spaces with some cancerous people, and it's because they're miserable. So the output is, I'm going to hurt other people, probably unintentionally, subconsciously, some intentionally, but some people just are not. They're not good business owners. Like, and I've just realized, like, in our economic system, we need both. We need employees and we need entrepreneurs. I don't think everybody would do well. They would not do it. They will crumble some of
It
these
seems like you have
industries.
some people in your mind. You got you know one, two,
Oh my,
three, ABC. Like, don't you dare start no business.
don't you dare, because you will be a disservice to the people who are actually trying to make change. I met a consultant for a tech firm, and she was super smart. When I tell, the lady was super smart, but she was so nasty to people. So nasty. She was nasty to her husband, nasty to her co-workers, but she was so smart. I was like, you would in my head, I'm like, you would be a great consultant, but you could never be customer facing. Just never. So it's just scenarios like that. You could see, like, some people don't have emotional intelligence. They don't have no humility. Everything is woe is me. And it's just like, yeah, ma'am, stay in your cubicle, do great there, do not sell a thing on the market.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And that's a good perspective too, because when
Yeah.
you think globally about some folks, it's like and sometimes I think about our community and really getting us to a place of freedom. Like
Yeah.
what what would you say to someone? And I'm asking you from two different perspectives. So from the
Mhm.
first perspective, just a general person who is wanting a financial breakthrough to start really building wealth, like what are some things they should do? And then we're going to piggyback that off of the solopreneur. What are some things
Mhm.
they need to do to really catapult their financial success in their business?
I think the key is to not fall within the marketing ploy of building wealth, but what can we do to stabilize our foundation first? Let's start there, because I think building wealth is market trendy, and it's a cute little trendy word, but we got to stabilize here first before we move on to the next level. And that could be, how am I going to replace my 9 to 5 income on a consistent basis? That could take time, right? um, what do I need to do for my household to kind of get to that next level of freedom? Is it, like, for me, I want to fire my husband's boss, right? I want to replace his income, because that will allow me to experience more moments of joy, which for me is travel. So, to me, stabilize the foundation of the house first, and then let's work on building out the rooms, because the building out the rooms is actually going to be your framework for building another house, which is your children's foundation, right? And then another house. But if your room is still shoddy, like, you ain't fixed the frame, you want the porch is trash, you can't afford the roof, like, how are we going to build something for the kids? You know what I mean? So I would say start there. Stop looking at other people's situation, especially on social media. We share our highlight reel. We're not going to share 100% of what's happening in our lives. And you trying to compare what somebody else doing and trying to replicate that is it's a recipe for disaster because you don't know what they're going through, right? They could be going through medical issues, they could be going through tax issues, whatever. And you're trying to replicate that. No, I want whatever lane God has said I'm supposed to be in. That's the lane I want. And so don't deviate from your lane. And then I would say, as a solopreneur, I feel like, and this is just me personally, I prefer to start with the one that's least intimidating. So if it's your business, especially if you're starting out, it's kind of easy to separate business from personal because the business can kind of operate lean, mean if you get it organized, but your personal is usually going to pay for everything to get ramped up. Especially before you go into like that corporate status, that S corp, C corp status. So I usually meet people where they are. What is the highest priority on your list right now? Do you prefer we start over on the business side, or would you like us to dabble into the personal? And I just say this personal is going to take a couple months to get it stable and organized because our habits are embedded, right? We're trying to do a lot of things typically. I know I am with one or two streams of cash flow. So that one takes a little bit more time, but the business, you can clean that up real quick. So before I go in with assumptions, I see where they are, right? Is it a tax situation? Are you trying to qualify for a loan? Are you applying for a grant? Like where are you? What's highest priority? And then I chip away at the list based on priority.
Listen, I know the folks have been helped about that. And one of the things I'm going to take away for my own messaging, I'm going to borrow from the great Lanisha, is, because, and the reason why I say that is you want to start right. So people will come to me like, yeah, I know I need my trademark. I need to make sure I get things copywritten and have my contracts together. But what about trust? And I'm like, are you making enough money to even think about a trust rating? Well, they said that I need to protect my money. Do you have that level of money to protect?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is just such a huge piece out there that people are just, getting so, and I hate to say this, but it hoodwinked.
Yeah, it's hoodwinked. They're getting swayed by sexy language because and a lot of financial people like to do that. They like to attract you with wealthy marketing and wealthy language, but you don't even have a bookkeeping system. So why are we even talking about that right now? And they'll argue with me like, everybody need a trust and la da 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 da. And I'm like, you don't even have life insurance yet. Like, what are you putting in the trust? And it goes back to you're so swayed by the sexiness of being an ultra wealthy person. Get on your level. Do what's best for your level first, right? And so I get like we want to do what's best to protect our time investment, our financial investment. But what if we ain't even got nothing yet? You know what I mean? Like maybe we have a net loss in net worth, So it goes back to really, you got to be the disruptor in financial language and legal language that's swaying people's attention to the sexy stuff. And we ain't gonna get everybody, right? We gonna get the core few of people. Like, she ain't telling me, what everybody else is saying. She telling me like what I feel like is more relatable to my budget level, my tax bracket. So you'll get the few, but yeah, it irks my nerves when people are like, put all your money into life insurance like the wealthy. And I'm like, that is a totally different strategy for the wealthy. Your middle income, it's not the same. Like it's not the same, but
I always say what you don't know will hurt you, and you have
mhm.
to go and like do research and like sit,
Yeah.
really sit, like really, really, really sit. Because if you go off that like hype moment,
Yep.
I like the song that comes like, "You don't need no beach, you need to hype your bestie." Like they just so hyped up, like
Hyped up and
off
can't
that.
come down to reality. And then when reality hit, you don't even know how to act down here with the normal people. So yeah, nah. No, 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 no,
Listen, y'all, don't be swayed by sexy language, okay? But listen, that was key right there. Don't be swayed by sexy. She gonna see a reel about that in like 2 weeks. And you just got to you have to have self-awareness, and we keep talking
no.
about this on the journey to more. And you
Hmm.
have to have financial self-awareness before you make a lot of these decisions. And
Yep.
so if you don't have financial self-awareness, you need to pause and start there,
Yep.
right? And like hold the mirror up and say, what's really happening over here?
Yep.
What do I need to fix? What do I need to start? What do I need to stop? What do I need to be lean on?
Yep.
um because if not, you're going to be swayed and then end up in some stuff.
Yep.
So Lanisha, I done had you on here talking about corporate America, businesses. What what's next for you in terms of helping solopreneurs and small businesses?
So I used to play really small for the sake of people's perceived budgets. And I realized people don't actually budget. When I say budget, I think people think like, even business owners, they think like, oh, you're gonna make me cut stuff and you're gonna make me do this. And you're gonna no, I budgeting is really just us telling the money where to go, right? So instead of me shying away from that holistic service, I am coming out full force with we're going to create an organizational spending plan. We're going to implement an operation spending. We should have legal, general counsel. We should have a financial accounting and advisory board because businesses should have investments too. And then we should have the HR capital on lock, right? Because there's a lot, like somebody today on our call this morning, she just kept saying, I run payroll already. I run payroll. And I was like, clarify for me. Do you have people on payroll that you're cutting a check to, like paying their unemployment, FICA, Medicare, or are you processing their payments as a vendor? Because those are two different things. And she was like, oh, I do a combination of both. I was like, ma'am, one is accounts payable and one is payroll. They are not the same. And I want you to correct your language because you will get in trouble. You're telling people that they're on payroll, and then the moment they get mad at you, they're going to the Department of Labor. So correct your language. And so she cleaned it up. She's like, well, I plan on, hiring 6 more people on payroll. I'm like, okay, cool, because I don't want you to get in trouble. So it's just I'm not going to be afraid of telling business owners what they need. Those who have the budget will be investing. I'm not saying you will get the budget of a corporation. Sometimes it may take 6 to 12 months to implement, but I'm not going to be quiet about the things that you need because I've seen it on a huge cake, billions of dollars. I've seen the budgets. I've seen the financial reports. I've seen the SEC report. I know exactly what goes on financially behind the scenes of a corporation. There's no reason why we can't operate like one just at our budget level. So I've been afraid to kind of say that. I usually kind of be like, they're gonna do their thing. I'll maybe plant the seed, but I ain't gonna, really talk about it. But no, I'm gonna talk about it. And we're gonna pitch you and we're gonna send you a proposal. And you have to be the CEO decision maker to say, yes, I need that. And then beyond that, we should be having a generation, millennial CEOs, who are helping their team members who have no desire to be entrepreneurs to be financially savvy. We know that people are distracted. Why can't you host a financial workshop for them? They ain't going nowhere. They don't want to do what you do. They see you busy. They don't, because I know that was me. I was like, the CEO? Oh, no. Give me my 5 tasks every month. Make sure payroll is cut on the 15th and the 30th, and I'll do what you say. As long as you don't disrespect me and you got my money, I'm there. So with the paycheck that you have available for them, why not bring in financial coaches to help them invest more? You ain't gonna put no more money in their paycheck, but you can help deliver more morale and more value. And so I'm not being quiet about it no more. Period. Y'all gonna get all of this.
Well, I think we're excited to get all of this. I think we need every bit of it. I was like, ooh, an organizational spending plan. Now that's something I haven't heard of. Like, you know, I'm like, that's golden. I think, you know, every business owner, whether you are just starting out or you are at a place where you have, you know, more capital, more liquidity and things of that nature, you need to be locking in and making sure you, at the very least, you are on her email list. And somebody saying, well, I'm not a business owner. I bet you're going to go on there and you might get something that's going to help you out in your personal life. And you don't know who she has in her financial network, and you don't want to miss that opportunity to get because sometimes it's that 1% that you don't know that will change the entire trajectory of your life. Yes. And we started off saying money answereth all things. So if you can get your money right, are you going to get all the things right? You get some of the things, but you need to get all the things right, because it takes money to do a lot of what we want to do, even on a philanthropic level. So I wanted to leave that there. And then also I want to tell y'all, I'm not giving y'all legal advice, but Lanisha tapped in on something that is so important around language. And what you say or do in your business from a legal standpoint matters. Matters. And so she talked about, you know, the difference between accounts payable and whatever else she said, a payroll system. There are two different things, but that has legal implications. And so what I tell everyone is every business decision you make has a legal implication. Every legal decision you make has a business implication. So if you're doing your business without legal representation, without legal understanding for your specific business, you want to go ahead and pause and head over to Iamandmore.com right now, because what you're doing is you're putting yourself at risk for fines, for penalties, and possibly jail with some of this stuff, y'all. It's just true.
Yeah, that's the rules to the game. The game in our country, the capitalistic game. You got to learn the rules to the game, and there is no grace for ignorance. Like, if you don't know, that's kind of your fault for not doing the discovery or the consultation. That's just how they treat it. So I always say people need the 3 A's. You need an accountant, you need an attorney, and you need an advisor. Period.
She done dropped the mic on us. Y'all, you know what it is. We should be seeing you on discovery calls all next week because you need your 3 A's. And we look forward to just serving the community. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have further collaborations down the road, because accounting and a legal world, it just goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it does.
So we thank you, Lanisha, for your expertise. We thank you for your story. And I'm sure that the people are going to be blessed beyond measure. Y'all take care, be more, and journey to more as you learn more.
Bye, guys.